Midnight Drearies.
The forest loomed before them, dark and forbidding, the trees stretching up to the sky like skeletal fingers. It was a place of mystery and danger, a place where few dared to venture. But for the people of the nearby village, it was more than just a place of fear and superstition. It was a place of magic, a place where the old ways still held sway. For generations, the forest had been a place of refuge and sanctuary, a place where the people of the village could go to escape the troubles of the world outside. They believed that the forest was enchanted, protected by powerful spirits and magical beings, and they had learned to live in harmony with the natural world. But there were rules, strict and unwavering rules that governed the use of the forest. No one was allowed to hunt within its borders, no matter how desperate their need for food or how tempting the game might be. It was said that the spirits of the forest watched over the animals that lived within its bounds, and that those who dared to hunt would be cursed with misfortune and tragedy. And so it was that the people of the village respected the forest and the creatures that lived within it, for they knew that to do otherwise would bring doom upon themselves and their families. But there were always those who did not heed the warnings, who thought themselves above the rules and laws that governed the forest. One such man was Conrad, a newcomer to the village who had no respect for the old ways or the traditions of the people. He was a hunter, skilled and cunning, and he saw the forest as nothing more than a playground, a place where he could test his hunting abilities. Conrad ignored the warnings of the villagers, and soon he was venturing deeper and deeper into the heart of the forest, his rifle at the ready, his eyes fixed on the prize. At first, he had some success, bringing back rabbits and small game that he could sell in the village market. But soon he grew bolder, and began to hunt larger animals, deer and boar that roamed the forest in great numbers. The villagers watched in horror as Conrad went deeper and deeper into the forest, breaking the sacred laws that had kept them safe for generations. They warned him, pleaded with him to stop, but he only laughed and mocked them, saying that he was a free man and that no one could stop him from doing as he pleased. But he was wrong. One day, as he was stalking a large stag through the forest, Conrad felt a strange presence around him. The air grew thick and heavy, and he sensed that he was no longer alone. He turned, his rifle at the ready, but he saw nothing. There was only the dark trees, the rustling leaves, and the sound of his own breathing. And then he heard it, a low growl that seemed to come from all around him. He spun, searching for the source of the sound, but still he saw nothing. Suddenly, the stag burst from the trees, its antlers lowered, its eyes wide with fear. It ran past Conrad, its hooves pounding the ground, and he knew that something was terribly wrong. He followed the stag, running as fast as he could through the underbrush, his rifle clutched tightly in his hands. He could hear the creature ahead of him, its breath coming in ragged gasps, and he knew that he was getting closer. And then he saw it. The stag had stopped, its body trembling with fear, and ahead of it was a figure that made Conrad's blood run cold. It was a woman, but not like any woman he had ever seen before. She was tall and lithe, with long hair that seemed to flow like water in the wind. Her skin was pale as snow, and her eyes were deep and dark, like the heart of the forest itself. But it was not her beauty that made Conrad freeze in fear. It was the fact that she was not entirely human. Her arms were covered in fur, and her hands were clawed like those of a wild animal. Conrad tried to raise his rifle, but his hands were shaking too badly. He knew that he was in terrible danger, but he could not move. The creature that stood before him seemed to sense his fear, and she let out a low, rumbling growl that echoed through the forest. Conrad tried to back away, but his feet seemed rooted to the spot. And then she moved, her body flowing like water as she leapt towards him. Conrad tried to raise his rifle, but it was too late. The creature knocked him to the ground, her claws tearing through his clothes and into his flesh. Conrad screamed, but his cries were drowned out by the sound of the creature's growls and snarls. He felt her hot breath on his face, and he knew that he was going to die. But then, something strange happened. As the creature loomed over him, a strange feeling of calm washed over Conrad. He stopped struggling, stopped fighting, and simply lay there, looking up at the creature as it loomed over him. And then she spoke. Her voice was low and musical, and it seemed to fill his mind with a strange sense of peace. She told him that he had broken the rules of the forest, that he had brought shame and dishonor upon himself and his family. But she also told him that there was a way to make amends, a way to earn forgiveness for his crimes. She told him that he must become one with the forest, to give himself over to its magic and its power. He must become a creature of the wild, a hunter of the hunt, a guardian of the forest. And Conrad, in his fear and desperation, agreed. The creature took him into her arms, and Conrad felt a surge of energy flow through him. His body contorted, twisted, and changed, and he knew that he was no longer human. He was a creature of the forest, a werfox, like the creature that had attacked him. For years, Conrad roamed the forest, hunting with his pack and protecting the land from those who would do it harm. He never forgot the lessons he had learned, the price he had paid for his arrogance and his ignorance. And when he died, many years later, the villagers remembered him as a hero, a protector of the forest, and a symbol of the magic and power of the land. It was a crisp autumn morning in the countryside of England, and the members of the local hunt club were gathering for their weekly fox hunt. The hunters, dressed in their finest tweed jackets and riding boots, gathered around the master of the hunt, who was preparing to set out on horseback. The air was filled with excitement and anticipation, as the hunt was a long-standing tradition in the area. The master of the hunt, a portly man with a bushy mustache, signaled to the other riders to follow him, and they set out through the rolling hills and winding lanes of the countryside. The pack of foxhounds, eager to start the chase, barked and howled in anticipation. As they rode deeper into the forest, they soon caught sight of their quarry, a small red fox darting through the undergrowth. The hunters cheered and spurred their horses forward, the baying hounds close behind. But as they chased the fox deeper into the woods, something strange began to happen. The fox started to grow, its body stretching and contorting until it was no longer a small, harmless creature but a massive, snarling beast. Its fur grew thick and bristly, and its eyes glowed with a malevolent light. The hunters were taken aback by the sudden transformation, but they were determined to catch their prey. They urged their horses forward, the pack of hounds barking and snarling behind them. But as they drew closer to the werfox, it turned on them, its massive jaws snapping and its sharp claws tearing at the flesh of the hunters' horses. The riders tried to fight back, but they were no match for the powerful creature. The foxhounds, bred for this kind of hunt, charged forward to attack the beast, but they too were quickly dispatched. The werfox ripped them apart with its powerful jaws, their yelps and whines silenced in an instant. The hunters were quickly realizing they were outmatched, but they refused to give up. They drew their hunting rifles and took aim at the creature, but their bullets bounced off its thick fur, having no effect. The werfox roared in triumph, reveling in the chaos it had caused. It had been a long time since it had felt the thrill of the hunt, and it was enjoying every moment of it. One by one, the hunters fell to the werfox's deadly claws, their screams echoing through the forest. The werfox was unstoppable, and it seemed as though nothing could stand in its way. But then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the werfox disappeared into the forest, leaving behind a trail of destruction and carnage. The hunters who were left alive were left to pick up the pieces, their hunt turned into a nightmare. In the days that followed, the village was filled with whispers of what had happened in the woods. Some believed it was a sign of a curse, others thought it was a warning from the old gods of the forest. But one thing was for certain, the werfox was still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for its next victim. The master of the hunt had been killed, and the members of the hunt club were too afraid to venture back into the forest. But rumors began to circulate that a group of local farmers and woodsmen had banded together to hunt the werfox, determined to rid the area of the monster once and for all. The night of the hunt, the men gathered in a clearing deep in the forest, armed with their rifles and hunting knives. They waited in silence, their eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. Suddenly, they heard a rustling in the bushes, and the werfox emerged from the shadows. It was bigger and more ferocious than ever before, its eyes glinting with a wild, feral light. The men fired their rifles, but the bullets merely bounced off the creature's thick hide. The werfox charged forward, snarling and snapping its powerful jaws, and the men scattered in terror. One by one, the werfox took down its prey, tearing them apart with its massive claws and razor-sharp teeth. It was a bloodbath, a massacre in the heart of the forest. But just as the werfox was about to claim its final victim, something strange happened. The moon emerged from behind the clouds, casting a pale light over the clearing, and the werfox began to shrink. Its fur receded, its claws and teeth became less sharp, and soon it was no longer a monstrous werfox but a small, harmless red fox once again. The surviving hunters gathered around the creature, stunned and amazed. They had never seen anything like it before. As they examined the fox, they noticed something odd about its eyes. They seemed to glint with a strange intelligence, a cunning that went beyond that of a normal animal. And as they watched, the fox seemed to smile, a sly and knowing grin that sent shivers down their spines. The hunters quickly realized that this was no ordinary fox, but a creature of the forest, a guardian of the wild places, and they vowed to never again hunt or harm such creatures. For years to come, the people of the village would tell the tale of the werfox and the night of the hunt, but it became more than just a scary story to scare children. It became a lesson, a reminder of the importance of respecting and protecting the natural world. And though the werfox was never seen again, its legacy lived on, a symbol of the power and mystery of the wild places, and the need to tread lightly in their midst.